Okay. We have a few ladies, a couple different people that are getting down to 1 meal a day and worrying about the amount of calories, their OMAD, and if they can't handle that much nutrition in one, trying to get them in high density nutrition foods. So that's 1 meal a day, high density nutrition, and they're worried about not getting enough nutrition in that 1 meal.
Oh yeah, your gut is very well designed. So here's some tests to say, are you ready for 1 meal a day? When you eat the 1 meal a day, do you get diarrhea afterwards? Okay, so what you're looking at there is how efficient has your gut lining become at absorbing, and I mean that word specifically, absorbing some of the high density nutrition and digesting the rest of it. So absorption happens in a very small section of that GI tract. This is where that specific oil of C8 and C10, these medium chain triglycerides, come from. It is in this section of high density nutrition that most of those go into the portal vein and do not require the process that filters them through the lymph system. So the lymph system is digested. Okay, the food goes in, it goes into this through the lymph system. The lymph system says, oh, this is a toxin, get rid of that, or this needs to be detoxified. It is a safety mechanism for our system. Medium chain triglycerides and other high density nutritions are absorbed. Now, of interest, I think it's very interesting how most of those are fat. Okay, it's not an accident in design either, that if you look at where our nutrition has come from in the past, these high density nutritions, your body will find those morsels that you're supposed to absorb and deliver them. Now, the caveat to that is if you show up to the ketogenic diet with a gut that's not working right. Now, as much as I hate this term, the world calls this a leaky gut. Like, oh, the gut is not leaky, but it's okay. It's a leaky gut because I give up. Everybody knows what a leaky gut is when I say it. But it means that the cells no longer, bind tightly. They have spaces between them. And I have a couple of shorts that I've put out recently to say, yes, that's what's happening is the cells separated and this is what happens at first, second, third, and then there's an ulcer. You do a scope from the GI doctor and he's like, oh, you have ulcers. And what do? They put you on a bunch of medicines and some steroids. I'm like, okay, we need you to not have that problem in the next 10 years. And yes, the medications will take care of the problem short term. I don't want you to say that that's going to hurt you. But long term, this doesn't get you out of the ditch. You really do need an anti-inflammatory diet, which is an advanced ketogenic diet, which will eventually heal those villi, those cells to seal back up again. And that is where most of the patients on a ketogenic diet don't require as much minerals. They don't require as much vitamins because it stays where it's supposed to. It doesn't leak out. I have a leaky gut. I know. It just fits. I can't fight it. I give up. You guys win. With that process, though, the gut lining, when it's working for you, it impresses even me that, wow, look at all the nutrients that got absorbed in that short period of time. When I see people advance to the 1 meal per day and they are like, I don't know, does this really improve? Am I getting enough nutrition? A couple of awesome ways to check that out are, again, 2 self-tests that you can check on yourself. Number 1 is a fat-based hormone that circulates throughout the body that has a receptor on every cell in your body. And once that little receptor binds to a cell, it goes into the nucleus of the cell and makes a bunch of proteins. And that hormone is called vitamin D. Okay. So yes, it's a vitamin, but it is one of those vitamins that I think got misnamed. And so do many people. It is fat-based. It is something we can find in nutrition, but it's also something you get from the sun. And a hormone talks to many different cells and does different things in those different cells. And by definition, that's what vitamin D does. So when you look at why is vitamin D linked to your brain, it's because as that vitamin D gets into your brain, gets into the nucleus of the brain, out comes some proteins that have to have vitamin D there in order to make them. why is vitamin D improving why is it linked to less heart disease, less heart attacks? Oh, when you look at the proteins that are produced once vitamin D connects to the heart cell, yeah, you need less vitamin D. You need vitamin D. If you have low vitamin D, you don't make those proteins. And that is the story with all of the different cells that bind to vitamin D. So when I'm looking, is somebody healthy? Are they in a healthy state? One of the answers is, how well do you hold on to vitamin D? How well do you circulate vitamin D? And the answer is 50. It should be above 50. I know that the other studies out there look at, and they are giving you the bell-shaped curve for the recent population. But in my family, I'm talking about my children, and I started measuring their vitamin D when they were 11. So from my children, my parents, my patients, my husband, if you happen to live at my house, I'm going to check your vitamin D 3 times a year for sure. We check it right before school. We check it at Thanksgiving break, and we check it over President's Day weekend. And that vitamin D is so linked to the performance of their immune system and their brains that it becomes the absolute marker of health. So that's one marker that you can check on your own. Again, bozmd.com, that same company that checks the fatty skin cells, the skin on your red blood cells, not fatty skin cells, the fat in the skin around your red blood cells, they also check a finger prick of vitamin D. And that has only been out about 1.5 years, but there are about 6 companies in the world that were trying to get that to production and through the FDA. And this company in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, good job, Dr. Harris, did such a great job of their studies that they just sailed through those approval processes. I just want to praise them for being forward thinking, investing in the money to do that, so that you don't have to see me. You don't have to see any doctor. You can check it on your own. And if you have insurance, you can go in and get your vitamin D checked. But like most physicians that take Medicare, Medicaid, or any type of insurance, they're going to regulate how often you can check it. So if it's low, they'll say, okay, come back in 2 years. I'm like, my kids will not wait 2 years for their vitamin D to be normal. I need that normal in the next 3 months because I'm paying for college or whatever. that production of health is one of those markers. The other thing that I encourage people to do is I tell them to check their uric acid. Again, another point of care test. Don't take my word for it. Check your numbers. And uric acid is one of the little strips that Foracare, that the meter that you check ketones and glucose. You can check total cholesterol. I kind of think that's a waste of your money, but uric acid is not a waste of your money. There's a really good book out by Perlmutter. Right, Perlmutter. Yeah, he just put one out on uric acid. Brilliant book. The research on uric acid is very well, it's been out there for years. It is a marker of longevity. When I look at how healthy is someone, and they're like, doc, do I need to lose weight? My body mass index is good. And they've got problems. I'm like, check the uric acid. It is like the rust, not really, but it's like the debris that gets picked up and moved away when you're in autophagy, when you're recycling those broken proteins that shouldn't be between the brain cells. They shouldn't be in your arthritis. They shouldn't be hanging out between cells. Uric acid below a 4.5, and again, this is all in the workbook, so you can look at that there. It really does change the outcome for patients who are improving their chemistry, and you want to measure it. What was the question?
I forget where we were.
Started out with what?
We were with the.
Oh, it was OMAD. So how well are you absorbing the nutrient? Yeah.
Minerals.
So when I look at metrics to say how much you're absorbing, did they get diarrhea? How well was their vitamin D? And then should you be fasting a little more often, which means uric acid. So those are the 3 trifecta that I try to use to say, don't just take my word for it. Check yourself, and then the rules are in front of you.